Hello, everyone. It is I, Ravenwood, and welcome to RWBY Volume 7 Crew Commentary Notes. I'll leave a link in the description below to the Reddit post that created the that had leaked the commentary, commentary. It was recorded earlier it was recorded earlier in April, but however it was just leaked for all of us to read on Reddit. Now I think there's a commentary video coming soon, which we'll probably go over sooner or later, but not in this video. We'll do a reaction to all that video stuff later. But as for now, we'll go over the commentary notes. Now, take note that the Reddit user did not include everything in the crew commentary, but just the points that she thought were either funny or useful for us to know. So I'll be starting with episode 1. Yes, episode 1 is Walt Disney. But I'll explain that later. First, we'll start off with the first 2 bullet points. Chapter 1, featuring Carrie Shawcross and Miles Luna. Yay! Okay, so they're in the show now. Okay, no, just kidding. This is probably just them covering the first episode. But anyways, Miles said he was hoping people didn't figure out Atlas was a floating city in the sky before they got there. Even in World of Remnant, they were very careful with how they worded things to avoid spoiling this fact. Now, I don't think that's a good idea to be lying to your friends, especially to fans who care about the world building and whatnot. There's a lot of people who are already going to be discussing why this is a bad idea and why this was bad in the first place. And lying to your fans is probably not a good thing to do. Definitely not a good thing. Now, is this considered lying? Some people would say it's not considered lying. This was just more of like hey, we weren't trying to spoil anything, so we were just kind of sort of, maybe not tell them everything they should know versus... Now, I'm saying we should know about Atlas. I'm just saying, if you want a surprise, don't talk about Atlas at all. You talk about Atlas, but you don't say it's on the ground or something, or, the world of Remnant may or may not be canon now, or I'm not certain about that. Because in the book, it doesn't say anything about if it's canonically fact or not. It just says the world of Remnant was made by RWBY and I think I talked about it in the last episode. Yeah, I talked about it in the last episode. But regardless of that, I talked about that in the last episode. I'm planning to talk about more of Remnant's separate kingdoms later on. That's where I got confused. But regardless of that, moving on, I'm not exactly upset about this, per se. This is just kind of sort of annoying. But anyways, moving on. A large portion of Episode 1 was intended to be in Volume 6. Originally, it was going to end with Penny revealed, dealing with the Grimm, and ending on salutations. Now, I think they could have had that, and maybe more of Volume 7, in Volume 6, if the battle between the giant robot was a lot shorter and was handled in one episode, or maybe 1 or 2 episodes, instead of the fake-outs that we got throughout the entire other half of that volume. Volume 6 was a mess. I'll just say that. It's not like Volume 4 where it's like, what is happening? It is definitely not Volume 5 was like, what's going on? But Volume 6 was like half good, half bad. But regardless of that, we're talking about Volume 7. So let's stay on topic. Almost everything up till until Penny moment was how it's going to be in Volume 6. For production and story reasons, they decided to end Volume 6 with just seeing Atlas, because why not? Mantle is more of a Blade Runner Ultarian looking, while Atlas was made to look like it was created by Apple. Two different futuristic looks. While making the Four Kingdoms, they compared it to the parts of the real world. Atlas and Mantle were two different versions of America. Yes, because apparently Mantle is supposed to be New York, aka Gotham. But, I guess that is American. Well, yeah, it is American, but that's probably the first thing that came to mind when watching Volume 7, that New York, it's obvious that Mantle is based off of Gotham, Gotham is based off of New York. Well, I guess. Well, and I say that's based off of Gotham because recently they were sometime during Volume 7 and sometime before Volume 7 and Volume 6. My bad. Sorry, Volume 6. They were bought. Rooster Teeth was bought by Warner Brothers, probably before then, but and they made some in between Volume 6 and 7. They made some comic books, and during 7 they made some comic books. Guess what? DC Comics wrote those stories, so kind of makes sense to have this as a little reference. And so my conclusion: what is Atlas? It's a floating castle in the sky. Might as well be Walt Disney World. If you think about it, because I don't see any places in America that looks like a flying castle. Do you see any places in America that looks like a floating castle? Disney has a castle. Like Walt Disney World has a castle, the Cinderella Castle, but I don't see any flying fortresses. I don't know what they were basing off of Atlas. I honestly don't. Is it New York? It could be New York, but again, I don't see a flying castle. They're probably not comparing any buildings or any known locations to a floating castle, but they were trying to base it off of New York, I think. But as far as my knowledge, anything that's castle-like in America is Walt Disney. Yeah, seems legit. It's obvious that this is two places that you can probably name in America. Yeah. Name two places that is practically a floating castle and practically a city like Gotham. I name two. Can you name two? The drunk man we see insulting Blake is based off Joel Man, and the other is Dustin Matthew Grapecon. And when you're looking up, you have to type in Rooster Teeth, or else you get different results, as you see from the Rooster Teeth drunk man for Joel Man. Joel Man's the far left in the red background. Dustin Matthew is Grapecon. He's the guy with the green hat. Yeah, they both look like racist. But when you just type in Dustin Matthew, you get a guy with pink hair. And you type in Dustin Matthew, you get this nice looking guy. We saw Pietro, his hand, for the first time in Volume 3. They didn't want to make him too similar to Dr. Weller from Genlock. And so they made him to be like a big kid, where it's where Penny gets a lot of her attitude from. Carrie wants to do a show with all the old RWBY characters. Volume 8 was harder to write than Volume 7. Okay, can we stay on topic? Please? Because this feels like these 3 points right here completely irrelevant. Okay, maybe not so much as the first point in this in these 3 bullet points. But Genlock has nothing to do with RWBY. It does not. Yeah, sure. Rooster Teeth. Well, at one point they created Genlock, but then they didn't. But when you're focused, but fans, that not every fan of Rooster Teeth is gonna know what Genlock is. Yeah, sure, it's a rooster. Both were a Rooster Teeth product. But however, some fans just want to focus on RWBY. Carrie wants to do a show with all the RWBY characters. Yeah, okay, fine, but that's not RWBY Volume 7 related. It sounds like you just want to do a show with all the old RWBY characters, like a separate show of RWBY. Okay, can we stay on topic on Episode 1, please? Volume 8 was harder to write than Volume 7. Again, what does this have to do with Episode 1 of Volume 7? Nothing. Nothing. Not at all. If anything, Volume 7 was a complete mess. The more we read these notes, it was a challenge in this episode to make it clear that Alice is a new place for some characters. It's a new place for America, because I have not seen a floating castle. Neither have I seen an actual castle, or a metallic one. I have not been to Disney World, but I have seen pictures of Cinderella's castle. So, again, what is Atlas? Anyways, but familiar for several others, but that the Atlas in Volume 7 is different than what they remember. What? Okay. They tried to theme the Grimm to the location, so the Grimm from Atlas are those that are from the Ice Age. Some fans who watched World of Remnant are probably upset by that, but I'm not really. It's not the big deal, honestly. I can understand that, like, okay, eventually Salem needs Ice Grimm. Miles compared Grimm to Pokemon. Some will pop up in every region, while others are region-specific. They had a lot of discussion surrounding what they wanted Penny 2.0 to look like. They considered giving her a conflict of her being a clone or not, and having her... This was not even the show. I did not even think that she was a clone at the show. Like, yeah, sure, that was a headcanon of mine, but I didn't get that vibe. I didn't get that vibe from the show. Pokemon, yes. The Grimm acting like Pokemon, yes. However, you don't catch any of the Pokemon in this universe. But ultimately, having the amount of stuff that needed to happen in this volume, they felt they wouldn't have to be able to... They felt that it wouldn't... What? Done well? If you could have just completely not have the politics, the political election arc, you probably would have covered this. If you just had them like fighting Grimm for the most of the volume, and us and being actually introduced to the happy huntresses, and not just, oh hey, I'm a happy huntress, I look like a sheep, bah, or hey, I'm Morrow, I can say stay, and all of a sudden I'm Zawaldo. I'm like Dio. No, we want to know more about these characters. Give us like actual missions in these episodes. Actually have them do something. Not just 2 episodes. Okay, 2 episodes of them completing missions together. Jean gets the crosswalk duty. And then training montage. Don't get me wrong, I like those episodes, but I feel like that should have been what the entirety of Volume 7 should have been. And I would like to also see missions from the Happy Huntresses. And not just, oh, we steal one car and then we encounter Blake and Yang. or rather, just Robin encounters Blakey. What happened to the other happy huntresses? With the rest of the happy huntresses, with Robin, why? I want to know more about them, not just, oh, okay, this volume is just politics. You could have had, and you could also have like Penny just kind of sort of doing some missions on her own with Winter. We needed more of that. That's what we needed in this volume. And that's the end of that chapter. Have you ever had a moment where your phone just continuously screenshot itself? Yeah, that's what the image is for this week, folks. That's can we get back to the RWBY guidebook? Bye bye.